Hello, everybody. Good to be with you. So today we're going to talk about assuming your true nature. Now, when I say assuming your true nature, what I mean is actually taking on your true nature. And I'll help you I'll help you understand what I mean by that. So a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks, I don't know, but recently I had an awakening session with a guy one afternoon. And it wasn't going well, right? I mean, you would think it was going well because he was seeing everything, but the problem was the one who was seeing it that was the character. Because see, that's what we have is that, and I always use character just to describe, really, we could say the personality. There's a unit, right? Let's look at, there's a unit meaning a physical body, and then there is a character associated with that body in our imagination. There's not really a character there, but it feels like a character there. And to an outsider, it looks like there's a character there, just like many of you would think that there's a Fred Davis over here, right? And this is Fred Davis talking on the video, but it's not. This is Awakeness talking on the video. And it's using the Fred Davis patterning to speak to itself through your patterning. That's what I'm doing. I'm talking to myself. I'm always talking to myself. I can't not talk to myself. Doesn't make any difference whether I'm in session or not. I go to the store, I talk to myself and ask him if he's got change for a $5, right? I'm talking to myself. I get pulled over, a cop pulls me, I've just pulled myself over for speeding. Just the way it works. See, this is the nature of the math of one, which we just don't understand. We just can't you can't wrap your heads around the math of one, but you can get it. You can get it intuitively, and that's what we're trying to bring about. So I was working with this guy, and I could see clearly that, I mean, it was obvious to me I wasn't going to get this guy, right? I mean, we'd been going for 90 minutes. He was all over it, but he was caught in that bubble of self-reflection that you've heard me talk about so much before. And just as a reminder for those of you who are new, this is the bubble of self-reflection. This woman knows that there's some grand truth, but every time she looks to see it, she catches the inside of the bubble she's created around herself, and she sees her own reflection. And she can't see anything beyond it because she's so fascinated with her own reflection. Who would want to look further? And so that's the bubble of self-reflection. And you can get caught in it. And what it amounts to is that virtually everybody that comes to me is in the bubble of self-reflection. It's the most common thing that there is, which is weird because then I don't ever recall having been taught this. I mean, I don't remember anybody mentioning anything like this. But I'm going to, so here it is. So that bubble of self-reflection, the position that you're in when you're in the bubble is that you're a spiritual seeker and that's operating as a character. You think you're a Fred, right? There's no Fred. There is just awakeness, but until you wake up, you believe there's a Fred. Seems like there's a Fred. Even after you wake up, it can seem like there's a Fred, but you know in your heart that there's not. So you awakeness have made up the idea that there is an individual inhabiting each one of these units, right? That's not true. There's no individual soul-like thing. There's no individual person-like thing, entity-like thing in the middle of any of these things. What's in the middle of any of these things is the same thing that's right here, which is space. There's no one home. Okay, there's a house here, but there's no one home. The lights are on, but there's no one home. So this guy's in the bubble of self-reflection, and in the predicament he's in is that, we'll say his name was Bob, and the predicament that Bob was in was the same predicament that he'd been in from the beginning of our session. I mean, which was that bubble, which meant that Bob, I mean, before he even got to me, Bob knew that there was no Bob. Okay, this is the booby prize of non-duality, is for Bob to know that there's no Bob. What we want is, we don't want to, because they come to me and they say, so Fred, you've got to help me understand this, and when you've got to help me get to that non-dual experience, I just can't wake up. And I remember when it was like that. And I went through it for longer than you probably will have to, because you're already ahead of the game watching this. I promise you that. I promise you that. I would give anything for this teaching to exist 10 years ago, or about 15 years ago, right? Because, well, you know, whatever, that's nonsense. So when people come to me, they have read enough non-duality generally. Once in a while, I get actually a newbie. I mean, it's amazing. Somebody just cut on their video, their YouTube or whatever, and they bump into me and they hear this message and they call me. They don't know anything about non-duality. It's rare, but it does happen. And most of those people will wake up because I don't have anything to unteach them. I have to unteach the rest of you so very much. And that's what I'm trying to do, is unteach you, because what you think you know, which is that you are a Bob or a Mary. You're not a Bob or a Mary. You are awakeness. This is awakeness talking to awakeness through patterns, right? But when you say through patterns, the patterns are not other than awakeness. And everything in between the two units is nothing but awakeness, because there's nothing actually in between it, just the one thing. But that's what it'll feel like. So when they come to me and they've read enough non-duality that they recognize that they're not the body. They're not the body. I've read this. I'm not the body. They keep telling me you're not the body. You're not the body. You're not the body. And so what happens is that the character that is not just associated with, but enmeshed with the body itself. The body believing character is coming to, it's coming to me in the hopes that I can help an imaginary character come to see that there is no imaginary character. Whoops, do the math. It can't possibly happen. Is that it's absurd. The character can't wake up to the fact that there's no character. But you've heard that. There's no character, or the unit doesn't wake up, the character, you know, if the character doesn't wake up, whatever. Well, if you're not the character, what are you? Have you ever really thought about that? I mean, I know you've thought about the reasons why you can't be awakeness, why you can't be consciousness, why you can't already be awake. I had a list this long why I couldn't already be awake. But the problem is you're already awake. See? So you're already awake, and you're just going against what you're just going against the flow of the river, and there's no way to get upstream that way. Just can't do it. And now, don't get me wrong. Going through the front door works from time to time. It just happens, right? Flukes. But often I would tell you that that person has woken up probably in spite of that teaching instead of because of it. Although there are some very good teachers out there, right? I mean, there are, and they helped me tremendously. And I love them, and they're great, and they're doing things different, which doesn't mean they're doing things wrong. I don't think anybody's doing anything wrong. I just am telling you that this is the way that things are done here. So the back door is completely open because you are trying to convince a character that it's imaginary. I want you, Fred, you really don't exist. That is not helpful to Fred. Because Fred can't believe that. Because Fred knows he's Fred. There's no question that I'm a Fred. What are you talking about? when they tell you that you are the awake space, I knew that was bullshit right from go. How do I know that? Because I knew I was a Fred Davis, and I knew I was this body, and I knew that this body didn't feel very spacious. It felt very solid, and I certainly was certain it wasn't awake. That's the reason I had come to this teacher, and now this guy's trying to sell me down the river by saying that he's trying to tell me that I'm already awake when I'm not. That's what I figured. When they told me that the truth is closer than close, you've heard that one. I didn't get that either. I knew that was bullshit. And how did I know that that was bullshit? Because I knew I was a Fred Davis, and that this is a Fred Davis, and that there's no such thing as getting closer than close to this body. You can get really close to this body, very, very close to this body, but you can't get closer than close to this body. And I thought I was the body, just like you do. Just like you do. Even if you've woken up, the odds are pretty good that at this moment, well, maybe not because you're watching this video, but otherwise, odds are pretty good that you think you're that body. That's the truth. It's very, very difficult to maintain. Well, there's nothing to maintain. It's very difficult to drop the story that you're that body. It's virtually impossible to do by yourself. I can tell you this. I tried for 3.5 years. I could not, or over 3 years. I couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. So, and you don't have to do it by yourself anymore. But you can't tell Fred that there's no Fred. You can't win there. And everybody is trying it in 40 different ways every day in most teachings around the world. Whether they're non-dual teachings or not, they're still doing that same thing. They're coming through the front door. And because they're addressing the front door. Most religions, they're addressing the front door. And in non-duality, if you have a skillful teacher, he's not addressing the front door. He knows he's not addressing the front door, but he doesn't know any other way in, or she doesn't know any other way in to speak to the thing behind the front door, which is you. So this guy, as I'm telling you, I knew I was going to miss him. And so I was just getting ready to close the session. We'd had our 90 minutes. He hadn't woken up. There's nothing I could do. I gave him my very best stuff. I gave him the same thing. I gave him the same opportunity that I give every single person, and this guy couldn't utilize it, right? Because you have to have the willingness / ability, I don't know exactly how it works, to tell yourself the truth if you want to have a successful awakening session. And the willingness, the ability to tell yourself the truth. What truth is it that we're so apparently unwilling to tell ourselves? Well, I can tell you what my truth that I didn't want to tell myself was: there's no Fred. See, Fred didn't want to notice that there was no Fred, because then how was Fred going to wake up, and what was Fred going to be like, and how would enlightenment improve Fred if there was no Fred? Right? What was going to be the benefit of enlightenment for Fred? I've had people say that, right? What's the benefit for enlightenment? I don't know. You find out for yourself. You call me when you're ready. I'm kind of like AA. AA does not provide the motivation for people to stop drinking. And I do not provide the motivation for people to stop thinking. But if you want to, then I can help you. But I ain't going to make you, because I don't really care. So, and I say that as awakeness. I don't really care. I just notice that this is the way things are playing out, and the odds are very good that you're going to wake up. How do I know? You're watching this video, and that's. I mean, I'm not one of the, I'm not the best known spiritual teacher in the world. You're just not going to start with me. And as a general rule. So I was just getting ready to tell this guy the session is over. when all of a sudden, out of the blue, I mean, the words, I had my mouth open. And he said, Fred, wait a minute. He said, it sounds to me like you're telling me to identify as consciousness. Oh, yes. God almighty. Yes. I mean, I just yelled it, right? Yes. Because that is exactly what I've been trying to do with this guy for 90 minutes, and it's what I've been trying to do with you for about 15. But I haven't given the opportunity very well yet. I am going to. So his thinking, what he did was he looked at me, and here's what happened is he looked at me and he went, oh my God, that changes everything. See, he heard at the last moment, I don't even know what I said, but he heard something at the last moment that helped him understand what I had told him in the first moment, right? That's the truth. We've been working on the same thing for 90 minutes and he couldn't get it, and suddenly he did. And the getting it was recognizing that he has to identify as consciousness. Yes, because he's identified as a Bob. And Bob wants to know how Bob's going to wake up. And Bob wants to know if Fred Davis can wake Bob up. But there's no Fred Davis and there's no Bob. So what's going to transpire is something that may look like that, but it obviously cannot be that. It's not going to play out that way. No Fred and no Bob. There's only consciousness. And when I say consciousness, I'm going to use it as a replacement for awakeness right now. So, but I'm not saying they're exactly the same thing. But for this conversation, I'll just say consciousness. The consciousness is what you are. You are consciousness itself. You don't have any form. You're inside that body, you are that body, and you're outside of that body. In the same way that you're in this body, outside of this body, and you are the body itself. So when they tell you that you are not the body, don't believe that, because you are the body, but you're not limited to being that one body. You're not limited to being that body. See, that body is not other than you, but it doesn't even come close to equaling you. I mean, not even just in no way, shape, or form does it come even close. Because you think that you're not only think you're a body, but you think that in this case, I thought I was a Fred. I was sure I was a Fred. Bob was sure that he was a Bob. And I had gone through all kinds of ways to help attention pay attention to attention so that not Bob could see that there was no Bob. And but it hadn't worked. And then it's just, there you go. I mean, I gave up and there's the fluke. See, honest to God, it's that, what is it? The paradox of intention, which is that I gave up. I'm getting ready to tell him the session's over. Just gave up. Boom, he gets it right there, right? Stuff like that happens all the time. It's the paradox of intention. We'll talk about that some other time. So the back door is bypassing the character altogether. Just don't even address the character. I never address the character. I can't see. If I'm working with a Bob, I can't see a Bob. If I'm working with a Mary, I can't see a Mary. The only thing I can see is me, right? I can see me over there. I can see me if I look up. I can see me if I look around. I can see me if I look down. Anywhere I look, I see myself. This is the math of one. It's just one. Just one. So since they're just one, how do you think oneness will come to discover, come to unearth, unveil oneness over there when there's no over there, right? How's that going to happen? It can't happen. It's the impossible. And that's what we're asking. That's what we're asking ourselves to do when we enter non-duality. We start seeking, and we're off in search of, and we're off in search of true nature. The math of one tells us that there is only true nature. So true nature goes looking for true nature. And it's looking, but it never turns around. It never repents, as they used to say. It never turns around. Attention pays attention to everything, but what? It doesn't pay any attention to itself. So this guy instantly identified as consciousness. Rest is history. Stayed with him another 30 minutes to try and help him clear because I didn't want to just say, well, that's it, and just that's it, and hang up. I wanted to help him, but see if we could build a little more clarity and durability over there. I don't know if I did or not, but I tried, and that's all I can do is I made the offer. Your consciousness. You're not a body birthing consciousness. In other words, consciousness is not within the body. Well, it is, but it's everywhere else too. It's not confined to being in the body. It's not confined to being outside of the body. It's not confined to being the body. It's simply not confined. Ever heard them talk about this boundless thing? Well, what does boundless mean? Boundless means no separation. Boundless, sorry about my phone here. The boundless means no separation. It means just no borders. Now, a finite thing cannot actually comprehend an infinite thing. So I'm not expecting you to understand this. Nobody understands this. I don't understand it. Hell, I don't even know who it is over here that doesn't understand it. I know who you tuned in to see, but I tuned in to see him too, and he's not here. You ever heard the Upanishads? Not the seen, but that by which seeing occurs. Not what's heard, but that's by which hearing can occur. And what they're telling you is that you are the very, you are the light, you are the lightness, you are it, but you're not this. You're not limited to this, you're this. This unit's moving its hands through your body right now, okay? And it's not 1,000% true, but it's close enough. This is your body. This is just one of your this is like a pimple on your body. Only this is an arrogant little pimple that thinks the whole damn world is all about this pimple. That's the truth. Can you imagine? Imagine you had a pimple and that pimple started trying to run things. Because it could see how things should go if you're down here at your pimple, right? It can suggest how things should go. It should go the pimple's way. It should go Fred's way, but it never does. But it doesn't matter because there's no Fred. But there's something that says I am a Fred and it should go my way. And the question there is, why are you believing that crap? The first non-dual book you ever read gave you all the information that you needed, I think, most of you, gave you all the information you needed to wake up, but it didn't do it in a presentation that was clear enough for the average person to see it. I am an average person. I was not born under a cabbage leaf on a special morning when the planets were all in alignment. I'm just a guy. There was a time when I was a part bum. There was a time when I was a car salesman. There was a time when I was a retailer, and a time when it lived here and there and ever. It's just an average thing. It really is. Just like when I prior to being going into the 12-step program, I thought I was the special. They have a word for that in AA. They call it terminally unique. And that's the way I was. I was terminally unique. And what they were doing wouldn't work for me. I was terminally unique. And most people here are, sadly, they're kind of not terminally unique because they don't want to allow what isn't alive to die. What in the hell did he just say? There's no character. We're all so afraid of letting go. If I let go, what am I going to do? What's going to happen to Fred? Okay, watch this. I got a pumpkin in my fist, a big pumpkin too. It's a big pumpkin, and I really would like to pick up that pen again, but I can't because I got a big pumpkin in my fist. I just can't resist that pen though. Where's the pumpkin? There was no pumpkin. I thought there was a pumpkin in my fist, and I held on to it just like there was. But there's not. There's not. There was no Fred there that was asleep, so there could be no Fred that woke up. Awakeness doesn't have the capacity for sleep, so it was not sleeping either. So what's sleeping? Nothing's sleeping. It's just a word term that we use because upon awakening, it can feel like very similar to the way that it does when you wake up out of a nighttime dream. And awakening is, because when you move out of the nighttime dream, you move into the daytime dream. You're just moving from dream to dream. But awakeness is not about the dream. It is outside of the dream, except for that that the dreams don't have walls or anything. So we're just, it's sort of a metaphor to say it's just not part of the dream. It is that from which the dream arises. It is the source of the dream, but it's not the dream itself. When you come in, when you identify, just start doing it. I feel like a Fred, but I'm not. I know I'm not. I know I'm consciousness. What does that mean? What does that mean? If I'm not a Fred, what am I? I wonder why Fred would tell me that I was not a Bob when I think I am a Bob. Why would he do that? Does he just want to lie to me for fun? You got to identify as consciousness. You've got to take on your true nature. That's what you have to do. You have to go ahead and move into it. Don't wait until awakening has occurred when you're already in it by default. Start moving that way. I'm not telling you who I'm talking to. I'm not telling you that you have any choices. I'm not saying any of that, because all of that, anything like that, if we do it, it's going to be against non-dual philosophy, and we're going to lose our place in the club. But I'm going to tell you that non-duality is pure paradox. And just because something is seen from the absolute, it does not mean it holds true in the relative. And just because something is seen to be true and truer than true, and from a relative level, does not mean it's absolutely true. And what is seen from the absolute view and what is seen from the relative view, they do not transfer. They do not migrate. Non-duality means you're not excluding anything. You're not excluding the body. You're including the body, but you're including everything. Non-duality, see? Hence that term. Not to. So if you hear, well, I'm really not to. Well, who's saying that? Who's saying I'm not to? If I'm really not to, can Fred say that? Hell no. You are consciousness, and just give it up. People say, oh, Fred, you got to wake me up. You got to wake me up. If you don't, I'm just going to die. I'm going to wake up if it kills me. See, but the thing is that waking up does kill you, but it doesn't kill you because you're not there. there's nobody home. Awakeness discovers it's been holding on to a pumpkin in its fist. That's exactly what happens. What I'm suggesting is just go ahead and start opening the hand, right? Even though it still feels like there's a pumpkin in there. Because I promise you, the deal that I'm trying to make with you is the same deal that I try to make with everybody every day all around the world. And that is that I'm trying to offer you everything in exchange for nothing. That's the truth. I want to offer you all of this in exchange for you simply giving up the belief that you're other than this, that you're outside of this, that you're going to find this soon. It can't happen. Can't happen. So I didn't know I was going to get quite so animated today, but you know, it happens as it happens. There's nothing I can do about it. I mean, I could not upload this video, but that's not going to happen. I've got, what, 30 minutes. I love you. I'll see you soon. Thanks a bunch. Bye-bye.